This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Welcome to Killer Innovations. I'm your host, Phil McKinney. We are not in the studio this week. We are actually doing this as a remote. Stay tuned. At the end of the show, we'll give you a quick update on everything that's going on here at Killer Innovations. We've got some new and exciting updates, and don't forget to check out innovators.community. We've been talking about that, which will give you an opportunity to connect with leading innovators from around the world. Now, let's get into the show.
This is so exciting. I mean, up in Keystone, Colorado, hanging out at the Cable Labs conference, this big summer conference, 2017. Cable Labs is the research and development arm for the entire cable industry, which you run.
Yes, I do.
Everyone knows you up here.
Yeah, this is an annual event that we host here at Keystone. We have about 500, 600 people come in. It's an invitation-only event, taking a look at technologies and innovations for, we talk about it as the cable industry, but they also has broader impact to just broadband in general, including wireless technology. So it's definitely a bunch of geeks all getting together in the mountains.
What I really loved about this year's conference, it was all about thinking outside of the box and risk-taking and collaboration and doing things that really make you uncomfortable. And I think those are definitely what you need for innovation.
It is. I mean, it is about looking at the problems differently. Mm-hmm. And if you think about and look at problems the exact same way you always do, yep, then you fall into the same trap as your competitors. Right. And therefore, there's no way to differentiate. And so part of the challenge is getting refreshed to look at things differently, recognize problems that others don't see. Mm-hmm. As I've said many times, the role of an innovator is not to solve problems, but to solve problems nobody else noticed.
Exactly.
And so it's about also doing that and being able to see a little bit just beyond that horizon. Mm-hmm. And our role at Cable Labs is to look beyond that horizon and be able to identify the coming challenges or the coming opportunities and work on those and get those to a stage that then can be commercialized by the vendor community, the broader ecosystem, and then ultimately the cable operators, and then to the benefit of consumers, which you're able to enjoy and benefit in your home. And you played a key role this week here.
I was the MC. I was really honored.
So we had Kim McNicholas here in the studio. We're co-hosting today, but Kim graciously agreed to play the MC role for the Monday, Tuesday this week event here in Keystone. You did a great job.
Thank you. It was really inspiring to be able to inspire all of these decision makers at the cable companies to not be limited by legacy, what they've already done in the past, what's done before. I mean, that's what's going to stifle innovation. That's what's going to keep them from being on the cutting edge. That is what's going to allow disruptors to come in from below and wipe them out. That's what's going to allow people like Netflix to come in and disrupt the entire industry.
Well, this is interesting because, the Netflix topic always comes up in the cable industry.
It does. And I brought it up on stage too. And it went silent.
But in reality, the cable industry doesn't view Netflix as a competitor. If you look at, for instance, what many of the cable operators do today is they've embedded Netflix into set-top boxes. Because what you find is in the cable industry, the big product service that consumers love and want more of is broadband. Mm-hmm. What the cable industry likes is products and services that drive broadband usage.
That's true.
So in reality, everybody thinks of, the over-the-top video services is destroying, the business or the market. It's
actually helping them.
It's really not the case. It's one of those, false perceptions of the industry that Netflix gets viewed as a competitor, when in reality, they're actually a very strong partner.
And they ended up being a partner, but at first it was like, whoa, what just happened here? Are we prepared?
Well, it's a disruption for the programmers. The programmers who produce the content. Mm-hmm. It's completely separate from the cable operators.
But still, the broadband folks have to be ready for it. They have to be prepared.
Well, think about it today. 50% of all broadband traffic in the United States, 50% is Netflix and YouTube. Mm-hmm. Not Netflix-like or YouTube-like. It's those two. So 50% of all broadband usage in the United States, roughly, it varies in different geographies, et cetera. But if you look at it just kind of as a as a broad brush across the United States, 50% of all broadband is Netflix and YouTube.
Well, what about those gamers? One of the speakers, Anju Ahuja, who works for Cable Labs, was saying that Cable Labs did a study that the results showed that 63% of homes in the United States have gamers, and they are those power users, right? The broadband power users. And they're the ones that love the product so much that they're breaking it. And that the cable industry needs to innovate, and optimize their networks for the future. When we're talking about the competitive games, the ones where I think that they're airing, right?
Yeah.
These games on...
You can watch them on ESPN,
the big competitions, right.
and $1 million prize, prize monies, etc. The difference there, though, is that the gaming market, it's not a very big bandwidth user.
Oh, really?
No, it's they don't use a lot of bandwidth. What they need is low latency. Games
meaning
become
not a lot of drop-off.
The delay between the time you hit the button, it actually makes the complete cycle into the game, gets broadcast out on the network, and comes back. How long is that complete cycle? That's why if you ask a gamer, they know certain statistics like what their ping time is, and a ping time is just sending a very simple command to a very specific server and measuring how long that takes. So if you look at games, they actually put the ping times up in the upper corners. So there's not bandwidth
for the serious games.
Well, even the not so serious gamers.
I don't have it on Words with Friends.
Yeah, Words with Friends I don't think is latency dependent.
No.
But it is interesting from the standpoint of gamers and how they are sensitive to other things. And what you're seeing in the broadband world is speed. Gigabit networks, which are being rolled out now, are in dozens of cities in the United States and being rolled out around the world. Australia is rolling out their multi-gigabit networks based on cable. Gamers, however, it's about that latency. How fast can I, do that twitch control of hitting that button and getting that command into the game and getting it back.
And for most of us, we would rather just flip on the light switch and know everything's in place.
Exactly. And the
lights are going to go on.
That just magically works, or your thermostat's going to turn on your heating and your air conditioning when you want it. Yeah, so it's a different kind of requirements. It's not, you can't peanut butter what everybody's needs and wants are from the network. And, look, we in the cable industry, we take it pretty seriously. We're the leading broadband provider around the world. The role that broadband now plays in the form of, education, kids who don't have access to broadband are more likely to fall behind in education relative to their peers. So we at Cable Labs, we're the R&D and Innovation Lab. We're nonprofit tax exempt. We don't build product. But we have programs focused on education. How do we extend the reach of broadband? How do we bring broadband to these kids? The cable operators have programs, particularly here in the United States, such as that of a child qualifies for a free lunch program in the schools, as an example. The cable operators provide them a steeply discounted rate for that broadband service in order to make sure that those kids don't fall behind in the education. Broadband no longer is just the, nice to have. It's a must have.
Right. And what's interesting and what I loved about this conference is that realization that the cable industry is laying the foundation for our connected future. Everybody's going to be connected in a variety of different ways, especially with wearables. Wearables is probably one of the biggest, fastest growing segments, I think, in the world right now of technology. And right there at the forefront is the cable industry.
Well, if you think about it, we talk about, data traffic, that you generate in your home, whether it's, sending your Fitbit data up to the Fitbit cloud,
right,
or, watching Netflix, or, sending an email or FaceTiming, with your grandmother. People don't realize, they think about it, that's wireless. But the interesting statistic is 75% of all wireless data, all that includes cellular, everything, goes over the cable network.
Wow.
So the cable network is that foundation that other technologies, including wireless technologies, are built on top of.
And it's really going to be key for healthcare as well. And I think that we should probably talk more about that coming up in the break, because you had the big reveal of the future of healthcare, the most amazing compelling video that really shows innovation with a purpose.
Yeah, and that was the reveal on Monday. We've done these vision videos. This is the second year around what we called the near future. And this year we took a very kind of personal, emotional kind of look at the role of technology for friends and families who want to age in place. So with that, we're going to take just a quick break, and Kim and I will be right back. We'll continue this conversation. Next up, we'll talk about healthcare and aging in place and the role of technology, innovations, and broadband technologies.
And innovation with a purpose.
And innovation with a purpose.
This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Welcome back. Phil McKinney and I are co-hosting today, pre-recording in Keystone, Colorado, where the big cable industry summer conference was held, and so many exciting things happened. But one of the most exciting things, Phil, that I was just in awe of was this video that showed the future of healthcare.
Yeah, this year's vision video is what we call the near future, a better place, talking about really the underlying impact of broadband technologies to actually make people's lives better. And we took a healthcare bent. In this case, the video takes a look at Jim, who is 86 years old and wanting to live in his home and age in place and not be shuffled off to nursing home facilities and those kinds of things. So the inspiration was my grandmother for this film. We had to deal with the fact that she wanted to live independently, but she lived far away. And how could you help somebody in the system and living the lifestyle they want to live as they age, yet at the same time feel comfortable that they're getting the things they need and are being able to successfully do that.
And this is coming at a really great time as baby boomers age, and there aren't going to be enough beds and facilities to house them all. And so it's more important than ever that we are able to accommodate seniors at home and be able to provide the latest and greatest in technology to give them a healthier connection to life.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're living longer, right? But as you live longer, the health complications can become a challenge. And you're right, the baby boomers and even subsequent generations, the amount of beds in nursing facilities is not growing to keep up with the demand as the boomers age. And so what are the alternatives? Plus the cost of nursing home facilities, et cetera, will bankrupt families to support support members that end up needing those kinds of facilities. So the real benefit for everybody, insurance companies, cost of healthcare, just better quality of life, is finding those right technologies, those right capabilities to allow people to live at home longer.
And more than $3 trillion is spent on healthcare every single year here in the United States. And healthcare providers are rushing to try and bring down the cost, and they're looking to do so through advances in technology. Most notably are the wearables and virtual doctor's offices or telemedicine, which McKinsey & Co. actually has done a study, and they suggest that those technologies, these advances that allow people to live at home, could reduce the cost of healthcare by like $1 trillion. And your video shows some of the visions for the future of these wearables and telemedicine. Can you point out some of the really cool technologies that you guys have dreamed up that you think would be in that connected, healthy home in the future?
Well, in the video, we show a series of vignettes with different technologies that we apply, such as, the ability to have remote consultation with your doctor. You got the wearables, heart rate and exercise levels and those types of things.
But the one that was checking, I think, the blood pressure was just a sticker.
Yes, it's like these technologies that are becoming the ability to extract information just from skin contact, not requiring you to put a needle in or anything like that. There are blood pressure monitors now, blood oximeters we all are familiar with, but blood pressure we're used to the cuff,
right?
Where it squeeses the arm. But there's actually now better ways to actually do blood pressure testing that doesn't require the cuff, and you can do it as continuous monitoring. Same thing, you can now use sweat on your skin to actually measure your blood glucose.
Oh,
so if you're diabetic, you don't have to have, you can start getting away from the finger prick as a test. And a number of the pharmaceutical companies are working on how do you reduce the finger prick for whether you're testing your INR, if you're on blood thinners, to blood glucose, and just being able to do it by measuring and analyzing the sweat on the skin surface.
Wow.
And so therefore you can make these wearables become much more accurate and much less intrusive, because you can just literally just attach them and have them, right? Look, I've got a Fitbit watch on, right? I don't even think about it. I don't even think about it as being a Fitbit measuring my exercise level and get my 10,000 steps.
Mm-hmm.
What we find with these technologies is we have to, particularly for those when you want to support an aging in place, is you have to drive to a level of radical simplicity where there's no thought involved in it. And in the case in the video, we show these technologies though that are they're there, but they're almost hidden, where you don't see them. Jim doesn't see them in his home. He's not self-conscious about them, but they're there to provide an assist for him to live a longer, happier life.
What I noticed, and also in your innovation showcase, your startup competition that you had, there was a company, I can't remember the name, it was all about the sensors. It wasn't necessarily the cameras following them around the house, because that could be really intrusive.
Right.
And everybody's been focused thus far about the cameras around the house and following people around. But they've realized that it's just about the sensors tracking where they're at.
Right. So in this case, that company, they had the sensors built into the light switches.
Right.
So therefore, you just have light switches, but those light switches are able to detect, is there somebody in that room? Who is it?
Is it a normal activity?
Normal activity? Is it outside of the normal pattern? Like they haven't gotten out of bed and it's 10 o'clock and they're usually up by 8, and then recognize those patterns. And then if something falls out of the norm, start letting people know. Call family members, maybe trigger a phone call to the person saying, are you okay? Do you need help or assistance? Those kinds of things. You really do have to make them hidden and non-obtrusive. And privacy is important. You want to age in place, but you want to age in place with dignity. You don't want to age in place and feel like you're a burden on the family, or allow the family to overreach and feel like they're controlling you.
And what I also liked about this video, and it wasn't healthcare specific, but it was just the seamless ability to have a video connection in your home, all the way on the go. They had, I think he was talking to his daughter from one room to another. First, it was on his iPad or on his phone. And then when he walked into his main room, he could have her on the big screen television. And then when he left to go on the bus, the Ollie bus, I love the electric bus, Ollie. When he got on the bus, she was right there on his iPad again.
Correct. So it's really something, Jim initiates the conversation, or maybe the daughter calls him, but that he can easily, seamlessly engage in those conversations anywhere. And the other part of the film, we showed, though, permanent presence. So there's the video wall into Jim's son's house that just looks like it's part of the house. So therefore, they said, the two living rooms look like they're attached, and it just feels like you're in the communal environment of being able to participate as if you were there.
That's really neat.
Yes, and the video has gotten a lot of very interesting traction and some interesting reaction. We did a press conference, and we can talk more about those reactions when we come back from the commercial break.
Yes, and also, once again, innovating with a purpose, which I think this video definitely demonstrates.
Right, showing that it's not innovation for innovation's sake, but innovation to have an impact on people's lives, and an impact that actually makes people's lives better.
We'll be back in a moment.
This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Welcome back. Kim and I are here talking about what the experience is up here in Keystone with the summer conference, which just wrapped up last night. As we were going into break, I was talking a little bit about this press conference that we held here after the video, which was kind of interesting because a lion's share of the reporters in the press conference were reporters for the healthcare industry. And I think they were a little shocked about, the video once they saw it.
Well, that it was the cable industry that was doing this video.
Yeah, exactly. That it was the cable industry. And a number of the reporters asked me in the Q&A section of the press conference about why is the cable industry so interested in healthcare? And I guess I was a little shocked that they were shocked, I guess is the way to put it. I had to remind them that, look, if you look at broadband in consumers' homes, the lion's share of that is cable.
Right.
And if this is a societal problem, and the cable industry is committing to say, how do we help? The cable industry is not going to go build the sensors and build, the monitors in your room, in your house, those kinds of things. We want to use this film to inspire innovators to solve these societal issues. And we, as the cable industry, making sure that our network is there, built, and constructed in such a way to support this. Because when you start supporting healthcare, it's a whole different scale of complexity.
You have smart chip sensors, RFID tags, real-time location systems, and they're all creating this exponential data growth and all these real-time computing requirements that are unprecedented, haven't been done before, haven't been necessary.
Right. We talked earlier in the first segment about latency for gaming.
Right.
Latency for healthcare has a whole different level of requirement. There's certain medical issues that, you just got to always be there. You've got to be on the game consistently. And so, as an industry, we are doing a lot of research on how do you drive to be able to satisfy those kinds of needs. And at the same time, we want to inspire innovators, startup companies to large pharmaceutical companies, that we need to come together collectively to solve this problem. There's no company in the world, no Fortune 25 company, anybody that's going to solve 100% of the issues that we need for the healthcare systems. And it's not just in the US, this is a global problem. If you look at the aging population in Italy and France, or the challenges that Japan is already having in the aging population, this is a global problem. And for us, given that Cable Labs, we're global. We have members in 5 continents, 35 countries. We are the R&D and innovation lab for our global industry. It's a global problem requiring a global ecosystem of companies, innovators, researchers to come together to put these things in place.
And in order to put those things in place, what I liked about you sharing this video at the conference in front of all the biggest decision makers in the cable industry is that you're inspiring them to innovate with a purpose.
Right. And when we talk about innovation with a purpose, there's innovation out there that's, you're innovating just to drive speeds, right? Oh, can we do 1 gig network? Or lower cost or be more efficient, take out operating cost or whatever.
And the cable industry is known, and one of their primary focuses has always been cost cutting. You're saying that shouldn't be at the forefront. Maybe it is in the back of your mind, but I think innovating with a purpose actually will help you solve that issue in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, the cable industry invests literally hundreds of billions of dollars. Here in the United States, if you think about the cable industry, a lot of people don't realize this, right? If you look over the last, dozen years, the cable industry has put in almost over $200 billion into the network, cost of actual construction of the network. It's the largest privately funded real estate project in the history of the United States, with zero government dollars to go into that funding. So, and that investment just continues to grow, right? Because of the demands, as you were saying, more data, more speeds, so the dollars, aren't going down. They continue to go up because there's a huge amount of investments that have to happen. Because when you're building a network, it's what I refer to as you got to feed the monster. Because, you can't pause because the customer demand is there. Things are happening like things like home healthcare. One example is Cox, member of Cable Labs. Cox has a partnership with Cleveland Clinic and actually has created a joint venture to do telemedicine in the Cox markets to bring the experts and medical specialists from Cleveland Clinic into areas that would never have access to the quality of experts at Cleveland Clinic. So that's probably, what I would classify as kind of the poster child, lighthouse example of where partnerships like this can go address and solve some very specific issues. Cox focusing on how do I deliver a medical grade kind of network, Cleveland having the experts and the consumers and the general population. How do you bring all those together?
So could that mean that possibly a Doctor on Demand, the one that's owned by Dr. Phil and Dr. Phil's son Jay McGraw, who also is the executive producer for The Doctors, that maybe the cable industry, different ones, for example, Cox partnered with the Cleveland Clinic, maybe another cable network, maybe Charter or Comcast or whatever, could integrate Doctor on Demand into their offering? Yeah,
I mean, the role there is there's a lot of opportunities out there. Historically, before I came to the cable industry, when I was still CTO at HP, we had a partnership with Mayo. And we actually worked with Mayo with a telemedicine practice program into rural Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wisconsin as kind of a trial. And that was 8 years ago with Mayo. We're all trying to figure this out. And the benefit of what's happening, though, is innovation is happening at such a rapid pace. Think about what video collaboration was, 5 years ago. Now you've got companies like Zoom, who create a medical grade. They have a HIPAA compliant version of Zoom that doctors are now using to allow for doctors to have conversations with their patients, and for that entire link and that entire conversation to be encrypted and secured to meet the HIPAA legal requirements here in the United States. And, look, you and I both use Zoom, right? And it's a phenomenal product, incredibly easy to use. Now you're seeing what starts off as maybe a small business solution becoming an enterprise solution, now going into a vertical to solve a very specific need in the healthcare space.
But if you're an innovator, how do you you can't get started off, going into that big, huge vertical. You have to start off somewhere. How do you think about those things as an innovator?
Well, I think as an innovator, if you're working in this space, you think you've got a great idea, is you got to find a mentor. And a mentor may not just be an individual, it may be a company, or it may be an industry. If you take the Cable Lab Summer Conference, we run what's called the Innovation Showcase. So we bring in 8 to 12 companies every one of our conferences, whether it's here at Keystone, or we run an event at Consumer Electronics Show, we run an event at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, where we bring these startup companies, we put them in front of the CEOs and the CTOs in the cable industry to try to drive those kinds of partnerships. In addition, we also now run the Up-Ramp Fiterator for companies that have actual products and technologies that can begin being installed, and we actually bring them in at a no-cost accelerator to them. We actually invest in them, and support them, but actually help them take those products and actually bring those to market, because we think these things are important problems to solve.
Right, and with the cable industry, it's, and back to that video, it's instead of being overwhelmed by everything that they have to do, instead the video with making everything that's being built on their platform relatable to them and ultimately inspiring them to keep up with the growth in the market and the innovation in the market.
Well, I think it's a two-way street, right? It's, everybody needs to be inspired. Right? And the hard part is if you look at like bandwidth growth, it's kind of, if you go back to the early 80s when I first got to Silicon Valley, we thought about Moore's Law, right? You're going to double performance of a semiconductor every 18 to 24 months. Oh, that curve will never last. Still going on. Same thing with bandwidth. You're looking, oh my God, I think this thing doubles. When does it stop? Does it ever stop? Right? We don't know what those products or services are. So you have to almost step in by faith, continue to build the network to have a certain performance for a service, you have no idea what it's going to be. And that when you say, okay, I'm going to commit $5 billion and I have no idea what's going to run on top of this. That's going to need 10 gigabits, 100 gigabits, terabit kinds of speeds in the future. It's a challenge.
It is a huge challenge.
It's a challenge.
So where should we go next?
Well, I think when we come back from this break, we can pick up the rest of the conversation and really talk about, it's not just about healthcare, but innovation with purpose can have a much broader impact, I think, on society as a whole.
Fantastic. We'll be right back.
This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation. Welcome
back to the show. Phil and I are co-hosting today in Keystone, Colorado at the annual Cable Industry Summer Conference 2017. And we've been talking for most of the show about innovation, inspiring innovation within the industry, and the fact that the cable industry is really laying the groundwork for the near future, making the world a better place. My own message, right?
Your own message.
And one of the most inspiring moments, I think, at the conference was that near future video of the future of healthcare and what that's going to look like, and really the whole idea of innovating with a purpose. And so why don't we spend this segment, the final segment, talking about how do we innovate with a purpose? Well,
and I've had this on a couple of previous of my shows, talking about, thinking beyond just simply the innovation adoption, and think about how society adapts to these innovations and technology. So you have to think about beyond just simply, I've created this new widget or I've doubled the speed of a network. It's really thinking about what does that enable or what can be enabled. The flip side is understanding what's happening in society and understanding or thinking about what innovations do I need to create to help address some of these societal challenges. And that's where the inspiration came from the video, which was thinking about the societal challenge of healthcare and aging in place, and the fact that there aren't enough nursing homes and nursing facilities to take care of the population that's aging. Look, 8% of the world's population today is over the age of 65. By 2030, that jumps to 16% of the world's population is over the age of 65. So we have an aging population on a global scale. What do we do about that? So if you start with that definition of a problem space, then that becomes kind of your focus to think about those innovations. Not just innovations because you can claim you're 3 times faster than somebody else, but your innovation with purpose, the inspiration for your team, the inspiration for an organization is really solving something that we can be personally passionate about, something that we know is going to have real impact in real people's lives.
Sir Richard Branson always says, he has this mantra that runs through the DNA of all of his companies, always be connecting the dots. And I think that that's what you are leading to. If you're going to be a true innovator, and we can all be innovators, there are dots everywhere around us. It's all about how do you figure out what those moments are? How do you define them? And then how do you connect them and ultimately do something about it?
Correct. And it's what's interesting is you don't need to be a professional engineer. No. You don't need to be an expert in an industry space or an industry segment to bring innovation. You and I talked many times about Elon. You and I both know him. You've interviewed him. I've had multiple meetings with him. Right? He knew nothing about space exploration for SpaceX or cars for Tesla, and now he's got the Hyperloop for high-speed transportation, and then he's got the dig activity in LA, putting tunnels in, because he got frustrated of LA traffic, which is where he lives, and not wanting to fight LA traffic. He wants to dig the tunnels. So he's inspired by simply just what does he see around him, and you and I have had different guests on each of our shows. These high school kids that come up with some of these really just amazing, ideas. And it really just reinforces that anybody listening to this show, anybody that is out and about can be an innovator. Right. You can solve the problems.
And that's why I think kids actually are some of the best innovators if people would just listen, because they don't let what they don't know and have never done before get in the way of achieving their dreams or what they want to do. They're not limited by what's in a textbook. The people that are limiting them are the adults, the teachers. You know, they can either inspire them or they can limit them.
Well, we get into the whole, fear of failure problem.
Yes.
Right. I'm not going to try because I want to look stupid. I'm not going to try because, who am I, to do this? And part of, one of the things that we've done, and I've been, I've done a lot of coaching and mentoring. You coach and mentor a lot, startup CEOs and young people to try to, inspire them for success. And one of the things that we've been working on is creating this community to allow, those that are successful innovators and those who maybe have a desire to innovate or who've seen an opportunity but doesn't know what to do with it. And how do you find it? I get a lot of emails about, how do I find a mentor? So to solve that problem, we've created this community called the Innovators Community. You can go over to theinnovators.community. You can check out the page there. But it's an opportunity. It's a private Slack channel where we bring people together that are both everything from the spectrum of, the former head of innovation at Kroger Foods to, down to,
even you're on it.
I'm on it. And we've got, young kids that are on it who, have an idea, but they don't know how to, take that idea, forward. And so this is an opportunity to kind of come together as a community and let's find and solve and address, innovations with purpose. But what are those challenges? How
does it work? What does that look like?
Well, we started off focusing really on just creating a way for people to find each other and communicate with each other. So in the private Slack channel, there's a whole series of channels, everything ranging from I'm stuck, is one of the channels, which actually is one of the more popular channels. Maybe you have an idea or you had an idea, you try to do something and you couldn't move it forward. You're stuck. How to, help me get it unstuck. The community comes around and helps brainstorm how to get an idea, unstuck. We put challenges out. We see things like healthcare or education, which is another area of passion for me, and we put these challenges out to get the community to kind of collectively, throw ideas together on how do we address like rural education where, broadband reach is a real challenge. Broadband may not be in some of these more rural communities. How do you address, the educational needs for those kids, those kinds of things? So it's a little bit free form. We allow people to kind of come together and find those opportunities to work together and go innovate with purpose.
And if people go to innovation.tools, they can find so much more. What I love, and Carrie, this is really funny. This is the first time you're hearing it. He has these killer questions. It's a card deck, like just a regular deck of cards, and on each one, it's like a brainstorming workshop in a box, right?
Right.
And it has all these great questions that inspire you to spark that creativity, and that's also available on there. And it's really quick and easy to pick up.
Right. So innovation.tools is the online store for people to find tools and training and those kinds of things to help people build up their own skill set. So, hey, Kim, thanks for joining me at Keystone. I really do appreciate it.
It was really fun, and I love co-hosting. We have to do this co-hosting thing more often.
Yeah, this has been great. So thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.